top right hand target.
Hello and welcome to the Gun Locker. Now, if you've seen my previous reviews, you'll know that I tend to follow a similar format. I tend to talk about the tech specs, I then go on to talk about design and build, and then I talk about accuracy and performance. And within those different kind of sections, I've got numerous topics where I rate the rifle. I'm going to change this slightly going forward, and the reason being is that I've had time to look at the different areas that I cover, and I've refined them slightly, and I've also taken on board what some of my followers have said with regards to the length of my videos, and I'm going to try and shorten them a little bit, not too much. I'm going to get a happy medium, I hope, between those that like the shorter format and those that like the long format. To do that, I'm going to mix the tech specs in with the actual topics that I cover, and hopefully it's going to be a little bit more coherent. Let's make a start. So in front of me I've got Kral Arms Mortal, and this is available in another variant called the Mortal X, the Mortal X being slightly longer both in the barrel and the cylinder. This is a .22 sub 12 foot-pound version because we're here in the UK, and that's what we can have without the need of a firearms certificate. The rifle is available in three calibers: .177, .22 and .25, so 4.5mm, 5.5mm, 6.35mm, and the stock, as you can see, because it's tactical style, is synthetic. Okay, it comes in two colours. You can get it in black and you can get it in FDE, which is flat dark earth. And I think personally it looks pretty good. For a tactical style air rifle, you know, I've said many times in the past that I'm a kind of a traditional rifle guy. I like a nice quality wood on a rifle, but saying that, you know, that's, you can't get away from the fact that there are more tactical style rifles on the market emerging all the time, and for good reason as well. Generally speaking, they are a lot more adaptable for different environments, and you're less likely to worry about them if, you know, you go out onto a field and they get mucked up or they get scratched. So I don't know about you guys, but looking at this and comparing it to the other rifles that are available, I think it looks pretty good. I actually like it a lot, and for that reason, under the aesthetics part of this review, I'm rating it 4 out of 5 stars. Now, if you don't feel the same, drop me a comment. You know, if you think it's worth more, again, drop me a comment. But 4 out of 5 for me, I think, is pretty fair. It certainly looks the part. Okay, so the next topic that I'd like to cover, I used to call ergonomics. I'm calling it features and fit now, for the simple reason is that I want to get away from this confusion of what ergonomics actually means. In my mind, and the definition about ergonomics is how adaptable a product is after the consumer's purchased it. Okay, that's ergonomics, not the design process during or pre-manufacture. So what can I say about this rifle? Well, I think the best thing is to actually break it down into its elements. We can talk about the rifle from the butt going forward to the muzzle. We can cover things like the buttstock, the pistol grip, the chassis. We can talk about the forestock and, you know, the barrel, and we can basically go from there. So let's have a look. If we work from the back, we have a adjustable buttstock. Adjustable in several ways. One, if you press the button in at the bottom here, you can either reduce the length or you can extend the length of the buttstock. So reducing or extending the reach from the mount point to the trigger. There's also a button here that if you press, try and do this one hand, you can adjust the height of the cheek piece up or down. Unfortunately, the butt pad itself, although that's of a nice sort of soft rubber, is not adjustable, so you can't move that up and down. But other features within the butt itself is that you have this slot, this cutout slot here that would allow you to fit a strap, and you have a widened base to the buttstock which will allow it to sit on a bag quite comfortably and not dig in. One other main feature about this buttstock is that if you press the button in here, it is foldable. Okay, and I'll talk about the DIMs, and I'll give you the lengths and the weights of this rifle in another section just a little bit further on in this review. For the most part, you know, it's a well-made item, although as with most of these types of stocks, you do get some movement, so just be aware of that. What we're then going to do is we're going to move on from the butt to the pistol grip, and this is an AR-15 style pistol grip. It's ambidextrous, so it has the same profile both on the right and the left, and it means to say that you can grip the rifle comfortably in both your right hand or your left hand. I'm right-handed. It favours, in my mind, a wraparound grip, although you can shoot the rifle thumb up if that's what you prefer. Very, very tactile, very comfortable. The nice thing about this pistol grip is that it isn't too bulbous. It's not got too much of a palm swell, because some rifles that are coming onto the market now have got such a big palm swell. It's like you're gripping a football, and it doesn't give you that nice comfortable reach for the trigger. Another good thing about this pistol grip is that it actually has a cover plate, and that may sound odd, but I've noticed quite a few now that are coming onto the market where this is open, and although it gives you easy access to the mounting point for the grip, you know, a cover plate is just a nice touch. It really is. Then we move forward. So as you look, we come to the main chassis of the rifle. This is where the guts of the rifle actually are, and you can see, one, that you have a cocking lever to the side here. Now that cocking lever isn't ambidextrous. You can only reach it from the right hand side. It's not swappable, unfortunately. Although it is very easy to get to, it's very smooth. You know, it's a pleasure to use. You also have the safety, which is above the trigger guard there, well away from the trigger, which is something that I like, and it's very kind of clear. So if you look at it, up is for safe, down is for fire. Very simple, very easy, does the job nicely. You then have an adjustable trigger, which is a blade on post. It's adjustable for length of pull, for weight, and obviously for direction, for comfort. There's a slot cut out of the bottom of the trigger guard there, which allows you to get to the adjustment quite easily. And then going forward, you've got two cutouts here which allow you to fit spare magazines. And that's nice because you can load up 3 mags, and you can have 2 of them stored there ready for use as and when you want them. And with regards to the rotary mags, in .177 they've got a 14 shot capacity, in .22 they've got a 12 shot capacity, and in .25 they've got a 10 shot capacity. Now, just forward of the breech, you're going to see a chrome plated knob here, and that's your transfer port adjuster. So by adjusting that, you allow how much airflow goes up through the port into the barrel. With all of these, I tend to just keep it on max, but I'll talk about that a little bit more detail as we go along. So on top of the chassis we have a Picatinny rail, and again I'm going to give you all the dimensions a little bit later on, but that allows you to put most modern styles of mounts. It's unlike, let me get this right, yeah, unlike a lot of the rifles that are coming out now where they have a hybrid style of rail which incorporates both a dovetail groove and Picatinny or Weaver. This is just Picatinny, but it's great in that it doesn't allow the mounts to actually creep, and it's also, because of the kind of the uniformness of the slots, it allows you to take your scope off and put it back exactly where it was before, because you know it's going to fit into those same slots if you want to do that. Going forward of the chassis we have a shrouded barrel. This does not have an integral moderator. It's basically a sleeve that protects the barrel. That's all it does, and it helps stiffen it. Underneath the barrel we have a cylinder, and that's encased in a plastic M-lock-ish frame. Now the reason why I'm not calling it an Arcarel or an M-lock frame is because this is made from plastic, and there's too much given it in my mind to be able to use it to mount a bipod or anything like that, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then to the very sort of front of the rifle, although what I have missed I believe is the manometer, and the manometer is just here, but to the front of the rifle we have the filler port, and I'll pop an image up on screen, but this isn't a Foster fill adapter. It's an OG style. It's something particular to Kral's and most Turkish rifles. They have a slightly different connection point. You will need one of these, and it is a different profile to a Foster fit, but that comes with the rifle. Oops. On the cap it actually has written the maximum fill pressure, which is 200 bar. You've also got that written on the side of the chassis as well, so it's very clearly put together. And then at the end of the barrel here you have a 1/2 inch UNF, which is protected by a thread cover the same diameter as the shroud. So with regards to features and fit, because of the different elements, with regards to the stock, it scored a maximum of 16 out of 33, so it gets 3 out of 5 stars for that. For the metalwork, so we're talking about the chassis, the rails here, the trigger, the barrel, and obviously the shroud, again it's scored 3 out of 5 because it got 18 out of 33 points. And then for fit, which is a personal opinion, this is how it fits a shooter. For me, it fits really well, and it scores 4 out of 5. So overall, for features and fit, I've scored the rifle 3.3 out of 5 stars, and that's, you know, that's a good all-round score. Okay, let's talk about build quality. Now, it's a funny one. It's a game of two halves, this one. On one side it's scoring very well, and on the other side it's scoring okay. So let's talk about the action and the chassis. It's been put together really well. Everything on this, you know, on this chassis works nicely. It's tight, it seems to be put together without any flaws, in all honesty. The machining is so good. There are no kind of mismatches. Everything is tying up quite nicely. It's all fitted together very well. It's robust, it's strong, and for that reason I've given the rifle 4 out of 5 stars. For the air system, I can find no fault. Again, I'm not giving it 5 out of 5 because I think everything can be improved. But again, for the air system, it works. It's just a shame that it's not a standard Foster fit. It's this OG style fit that Turkish manufacturers tend to use. But what you can do, as I've done, is get an adapter that screws on the end of this to turn it into a Foster fitting that you can just plug into your whip. But yeah, you know, it works. There's nothing there that seems to be an issue, so it gets 4 out of 5 stars. And with regards to the barrel, well, again, I've not seen anything on this rifle that gives me any sort of concern. It's put together well, it's tight, it's straight, indexing. You know, when you load the pellets up using rotary magazines, it doesn't miss a beat. You know, it's been absolutely brilliant that way. So again, it scores 4 out of 5 stars. But where it starts to kind of lose stars, in my opinion, is regarding the stock. So look, what I don't like is this waggle. It's got a little bit too much movement, too much play in it. Now, strangely enough, once you shoulder the rifle and you lock into it, it's solid. It doesn't feel as if it gives at that point, but it just has that feel about, you know, is it going to break? Is it going to kind of not give, not hold? Will it let you down? There's a little bit too much play in that for me. And with regards to the forestock, well, I've already mentioned this is a plastic frame around the cylinder. I've tried resting this rifle on this forestock, and that give is noticeable. That spring is noticeable. So although you could, you know, attach, I guess, some torches, some LRFs to this if you wanted to, I wouldn't use it for a bipod because it just has too much spring. So in my mind, from that perspective, it scores 3 out of 5. It's okay. It could be a lot better. And then lastly, the quality of the sundries or sundry items. Well, excuse me, these rotary magazines, I've got to say, they are more robust than a lot of the Kral style magazines that you get out on the market. These are wider, the faceplate is thicker, and as yet I haven't had any issues with these. But what I will say is that I have come across them in the past where there's a metal pin that actually goes through the face of the faceplate, and I've noticed that they fracture after a period of time because they're under load, and obviously as it springs back it starts to put pressure on this faceplate. So they are prone to cracking, they are prone to getting stuck, and it means replacement. The other thing that I don't particularly like about them is that they have a plastic sort of locating rail at the back of the magazine which fits within the groove of the breech. The breech is aluminium and sharp, this is plastic, and if you don't align it you can shave that rail. Eventually it kind of wears off because plastic is softer than metal. It's as simple as that. So at some point in the future you're going to have to replace these, and they're not particularly cheap. I think the last time I looked off the top of my head they were about 45 to 50 pounds. The other thing that I don't particularly like is this single shot tray. Now I tried to use this when I was doing the accuracy test, but in all honesty, because it's so short and because it's so narrow, if I try and drop a pellet in from this side, it can either flip, it can go head up, it can go head face or skirt first as opposed to head first. It's just really awkward to use, and because it's so short it would have been handy if it's longer to have an extension on here where you could push it out slightly, feed the pellet in through the access point, the probe access point, and it would line the pellet up easy. You could just slide it in from the side. The other issue that you've got with this is if you're using a bipod and the rifle, when you go to reload it, is in this position where it's leaning backwards, if you push a pellet in from the end here, it simply drops back. Or if you try and drop it in from the top, it falls out. I'm just going to put that there. It falls out of the tray into a large recess at the sort of exit point for the probe. I don't know if you can see that, and it can get jammed in that point there. So this is not very good. This could be much improved, and also the port for the probe could be reduced in size, because once you shut it, it's sealed, but it's got two different diameters in the probe itself. You've got the fin point, you've got the main body here, and then you've got the bit at the back. Honestly, that could be a lot better. It could be one diameter going all the way through, and then that would save with this issue of the pellet falling back in and getting kind of blocked, I suppose. That's the best way to put it. Another good feature about this rifle, by the way, is that you can decock it, and I'm going to do that now. So what you need to do is put the, it's hard doing it when you can't see it, but put the safety into fire mode, hold the cocking lever, depress the trigger, and then just return that cocking lever, and that's now decocked. I'll put that back onto safe. So for build quality, I'm rating this rifle 3.6 out of 5 stars. Now, if you guys disagree, drop me a comment, but I think that's a fair rating. Okay, let's talk about the safety. Now we're going to talk about its positioning, its operation, and the type. So with regards to its positioning, you can see that it's located outside of the trigger guard, which in my mind is a massive plus. It's easily visible. You know when it's in safe, you know when it's in fire mode. Up is for safe, down is for fire. It's very kind of tactile. You know exactly what you're doing, and you can feel it. You don't have to see it. And in a location where you can easily get to it with your trigger finger, you know. So in my mind, the positioning is great. It would have been nice if it was on the left side of the rifle. It isn't. There's a pin that goes through, and I'm not sure whether you could actually swap it from one side to another. I would suggest not, because there's no markings on that side, but you know, it is what it is, and it works well for a right-handed person. Great. I've given it 4 out of 5 stars because it is suitable for me. Now for lefties, they might kind of prefer it to be, mind you saying that, let's have a look. Do you know what, I can operate that with my thumb as well quite easily, so for lefties it's going to work for them as well. Yeah, okay, fine, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with a 4 out of 5 for that one. With operation, there's nothing to fall out with. It is so easy to use, and it's very evident as to where it's at. It's also quite positive. So when you put it into safe, which is where it's at now, you know it's there. You can feel it. There's a click, and and it works well. And with regards to safe, it actually locks the trigger off, whereas you have more movement there when it's in fire mode. So nothing really to go wrong with. Again, it gets 4 out of 5 stars. Where it loses out a little bit is in its type. This is a manual safety, it's not an automatic, and if you guys have seen my other reviews, you'll know that I'm a big fan of auto safeties. That comes from the fact that I have seen somebody get shot by accident, and it wasn't pretty at all. It was a good friend of mine, and he ended up being airlifted out of where we were. So accidents do happen on the field, okay? And in my mind, if you've got a rifle that's loaded, it should be in safe unless you are ready to take the shot. And with these, once you've fired them and recocked them, it's so simple and so easy not to put it back on safe. It can just stay in live fire mode. And if you're out on the field, if you slip, you know, I've actually gone over like a barbed wire fence before, climbed over that, and I've gone over it just purely as I was trying to get over the fence. My foot gave from underneath me and I ended up on the floor. Accidents happen. Now, I don't walk around with a rifle or a shotgun in live fire mode. I've always got it in safety, and you know, sometimes it pays. And if you can put it down, you put it down before you make a move. But occasionally, you know, you think something's very easy, you try and scale a rock or go around something, and an accident can happen. You know, it just does. So in my mind, rifles, shotguns should have auto safeties, and then it's for you to disengage that safety when you take the shot or before you take the shot. It's one of those things. You've got bench rest shooters who will say that they're an annoyance. You've got other people who say, why the hell do you want an automatic safety? You know, I've got my reasons, you've got your reasons, difference of opinion, you know, that's what it is. But I've rated it okay for 3 out of 5 because that's the norm nowadays, but it's not something that I like. So overall, for safety, I've scored the rifle 3.7 out of 5 stars. If you disagree, drop a comment. You know, if you think it's worth more, drop a comment, you let me know. Right, okay, so traditionally that would have been the end of the design and build section, and we now move on to the accuracy and performance part of the review. So let's talk about its dimensions and its handling. The rifle itself, from the butt to the muzzle in its folded state, so that way, like that to that, is 620 millimeters long or 24.41 inches long. In its open length, but with the stock shut, it's 843 mil long or 33.19 inches long, and with the stock fully extended, it's 920 millimeters long or 36.22 inches. The center of balance, let me get this right, when it's fully extended from the butt to the point, which I think is where actually my finger is here, if I remember rightly, center of balance is 510 millimeters from butt to the center of the rifle. And the reach, sorry, from the, I'm looking down here because I've got a whole myriad of information here, so, and I'll never be able to remember these figures, but the reach from the butt to the trigger fully extended at this point is 420 mil, so from butt to trigger, and when that stock is shut, it's 340 mil, so that's 13.39 inches in its closed position and 16.54 inches in its open position. The scope rail length is 160 millimeters or 6.3 inches. It's 21.33 millimeters or 0.84 an inch wide, and the offset, so from that point to the top of the inside of the barrel, is 16.4 millimeters or 0.65 of an inch. And the rifle comes in at 3.51 kilograms or 7.74 pounds without the scope, without the bipod. Okay, that's in its naked form. So with regards to its weight at 7.74 pound, for the bench, it's okay. It's scoring 3.5 out of 5 stars. For field work, again, it's not too heavy, so you can carry it around all day long. It's scoring 3.5 out of 5 stars. And for handling and balance, I'm giving it the same, 3.5 out of 5 stars. So dimensions and handling, overall, the rifle scores 3.5 out of 5 stars. The reason why I've given it 3.5 for handling, sorry, for balance and for handling, is basically because of the length of the rifle, and because its mounting point for the bipod is so close to the trigger, so close to the center of balance. What you tend to find with this is that any movement in the butt is exaggerated in the muzzle end. And also, when I shot this rifle, it has or suffers from a bit of muzzle flip. And because the pivot point is so close to the center of balance, it's affected either by your hold or by the shot. It rocks. I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in the next section, but yeah, that's the reason why I'm scoring it the way that I am, 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now for loading and indexing, well, I've already mentioned that with regards to these rotary mags, in the .177 they get 14 shots, .22 they get 12 shots, .25 you get 10 shots. As mags go, with regards to capacity, they're okay. They're going to score 3 out of 5 stars. They're not like some of the magazines out there now where you get 30 odd shots per magazine. So there's enough. It's okay, and that's how it's going to be scored, 3 out of 5. With regards to loading and indexing, I'm going to ignore this, because if I took that into account, it would drop the scores really, it would affect the scores heavily. But using the rotary magazine and indexing the pellets using this magazine, it was flawless, absolutely flawless. I've got no complaint at all. Now, ordinarily it should get 5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 stars because I just know that these are prone to issues, but I've not experienced any. Those issues come with wear and tear over time. So for indexing, I scored it 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason for that as well is that no matter what pellet I put into these, of the 10 that I used for my pellet test, they all fed into the breech really smoothly. I didn't feel any sort of resistance. They just kind of went in consistently the same. So yeah, 4 out of 5. So overall, for loading and indexing, the rifle scores 3.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, so now to the fun part, the pellet and the accuracy test. Now what I'm going to do is show you footage of me shooting the rifle outside. Where it differs from my previous reviews is that I'm not going to show you footage of me shooting the different types of pellets, the pellet test, because to be fair, it takes a lot of time to go through all of that lot, and I can just sum up the results quite easily when I go through the images in a little bit. The accuracy test, on the other hand, well, that's the main kid on the block, as it were. That's the main reason why we do this. So I filmed that, and this is what I'm about to show you now. Well, we've finally got a break in the weather, and it means that I can get out and do another airgun review. This time it's the turn of the Kral Arms Mortal. This is a .22 and it's sub 12 foot-pound. What I've done already is a pellet test. I've not bothered to film it because I'm trying to keep my videos a little bit more concise, even though whichever way I do it they always seem to be fairly long format. But I have tried out 10 different types of pellets, and what I'm going to do is when I get back inside the studio, I'm just going to show you images of the targets so you'll be able to see the group size, and you'll understand why I've selected the Crossman Premier hollow points. These are 14.3 grain, obviously 5.5mm or .22 caliber. I've selected these for the accuracy test. The other pellets have done alright. There's some that done, that performed very well, but they just gave me a consistent group, and I thought, well, why not give them a go? I've never actually done an accuracy test with those pellets before. it surprised me, but you know, it is what it is. So as I say, purely down to an accuracy test. Now down there you'll see two pieces of paper. I'm going to use the left hand piece of paper, and on that there are 5 targets, and as always guys, there's going to be a pellet put in each of the outer targets, and then I'm going to do a group in the center target. Now depending on the results, I may go on to do another accuracy test and use the right hand piece of paper, purely because I haven't shot for a while and maybe my skills aren't as sharp as they should be, but let's see. I want to give the rifle the best chance, so if it means I do a second accuracy test, you know, I'll do a second accuracy test, and then we can kind of collate information from both. Right, without further ado, just to let you know, this is, well, this was pumped up to 200 bar. I've already had 10 rounds of pellets through it, and it's now down to 140 bar. So hopefully we should be in the sweet spot. To load the rifle, it uses rotary magazines. Because this is a 2.2, it's a 12-shot magazine. You would have seen me load these in the past, but it's always the same with Turkish rifles. Generally speaking, the round end of the magazine is fed in first, and it always goes in from the right hand side. So we pull the lever back, we make sure this is on safe, we load the magazine, it goes in nice and easy, return the cocking lever so the pellet has already been pushed into the breech of the barrel, and then when we're ready we'll put it into fire mode and we'll start shooting. So bottom left hand piece of paper, and we'll start bottom left hand target, then we'll go bottom right, top left, and then I'll do that group in the center target. We'll see how we go. Got comfy. Right, we're in fire. Bottom left hand target. Bottom right hand target. Top right hand target. Top left hand target. And then the group in the center target. Okay, well, as you'll see from the results there, that's not great. So I'm going to put that second mag in. I'm going to go onto the right hand piece of paper and I'm going to see if I can tighten this up. I'm not sure what's going on. When I did the pellet test, I had a nice group that was within the size of my thumbnail. These targets are set at 31 metres actually, a little bit further out than the 30 metres, but that's only because I'm trying to protect the grass down there. Let's try and set that right hand piece of paper. And the reason why I've just taken a little bit of time to look is because scooting over to the left hand piece of paper, I'm looking at my point of impact, and I was hoping that they'd all be in the same sort of place, but they're not, they're spread out. So I'm going to just try a slightly different technique in firing the rifle. It could be myself that's causing the issue. I'm just going to extend this stuff a tad, and we'll try again. Bottom right hand target. Bit too much. Bottom right hand target. Top right hand target. Top left hand target. And then we'll go for the group. Okay, well there you have it. That was me giving the rifle a fair crack. Yeah, I'm not too pleased with that, to be honest. It's in my mind a Kral should shoot a lot tighter than that. It's certainly not as good as the high cap. I much prefer that rifle. I don't know, the rifle just doesn't feel that stable, and it is so hold sensitive. You would not believe. You really have to be properly locked in, and if you've got any pulse that's coming through, and by that what I mean is when you're breathing you can feel that you're moving slightly with the breath, although that should be static, and then you can feel your heartbeat just pulsing slightly, and the rifle seems to rock a little bit. I would have preferred, to be honest, that the rest point for the bipod was much nearer the end of the muzzle of the rifle. The reason being is there's too much of a pivot point here, so any movement in the back is exaggerated and that front end wobbles. I really don't like the mounting points when they're this close to the trigger. I think that you should spread it out as far as you can away, and you just get a more stable shooting position. Look guys, that's me giving it my best shot. I wish I could have performed a little bit better. I don't think I've been doing too bad, but you know, the results down there aren't great. That's a fact. I'll catch you inside. Okay, so that was me shooting outside. The target was set at 31 metres, so slightly further than my normal 30 metres, but insignificant. And the reason why it's slightly different is that I was purely trying to protect the grass. Although we had a lovely day for shooting, the ground is just such a quagmire. It's still saturated, so yeah, it's hard to find a spot that's not getting killed at the moment. But saying that, it was an interesting day's worth of shooting, and quite surprising really. I was hoping for better results, but what I'm going to do is go through and talk to you a little bit more about the rifle now, give you some more facts about the barrel, and then I'm going to explain the results of the test. So with regards to the barrel on this rifle, it's 400mm or 15.98 inches long, sorry, 406mm. The barrel wall thickness is 5mm or 0.2 of an inch, so it's quite a sturdy barrel, and it's button rifled. As you can see, it's shrouded, but it's not moderated, and it does have that 1/2 inch UNF as I've explained in the past. The shroud length is 352mm or 13.86 inches. The diameter is 28.43mm or 1.12 inches. And now we talk about the results. So I'll put them up on screen, but let's talk about the pellet test first to make sure I've got the right ones here. So that's these two. Okay. Sorry, it's those two. Right. Just double check. Yeah, okay. So what you're going to see on screen are basically these two here. Okay. And what I've done is I've actually marked the group sizes, and it helps to give the reasonings why I chose the pellets that I did. And I ended up choosing the Crosman Premier Hollow Points to do the accuracy test. Although surprisingly, they didn't perform the same in the accuracy test as they did on the pellet test, which is a little bit odd. So what have we got here? Of the 10 types of pellets that I've used, and you can see them here in front of me, we managed to get 7 that grouped okay. And by grouping okay, we're talking in the region of 25 to 28mm and sub that. And then the other 3 were just way out. I mean, the Victory Shots gave a group of 37mm, the RWS Superdomes 36.5mm, and the Webley VMX Pels, made by H&M, gave a group size of 31.5mm. Now I opted for the Crosman Premier Hollow Points because they gave me a group size of 15.3mm, and I thought that was exceptional. You know, that's great, because that's smaller than a 5p piece out at 31 metres. The Air Arms Diablo Fields came second with a group of 18.8mm, and like I say, I'm going to have these up on screen so you can see them. But what surprised me was how kind of inconsistent these groups were. I was hoping that they were going to be tighter. It could be that it's a new rifle and that the barrel still needs leading in, and there's also the factor that I'm not cleaning the barrel and re-leading it before I do a pellet test. I just haven't got the time to do that, so you're going to have to bear that in mind. What I am doing is taking a rifle straight out of the box, I've cleaned the barrel and I'm shooting it. Okay, now Obviously, if you've got one pellet going through it that's harder than the other, then it may strip the leading that's been done prior to that. There are all sorts of factors that could affect the accuracy. Pellet weight obviously affects the accuracy as well. Many factors, but you know, with regards to pellet choice, is the rifle pellet fussy? It's not bad. It's not bad. You know, whichever of those 7 pellets that you pick, you should be able to tighten them up with time. So I've given it 3.5 out of 5 stars for that one. Now, with regards to the accuracy test, and as I say, I opted to go with the Crosman Premier Hollow Points because they gave me that 15mm group. I wish it did the same in the accuracy test, and to give the rifle a fair chance, I did 2 tests, and you've seen the footage already. With regards to actually scoring the rifle on accuracy, I've opted to use the first test, and the reason being is because I've got the results here, and I'm going to put them up on screen for you again so you can see that. The closest point of impact to the centre of the red cross was this shot here at 5.14mm away. The furthest point of impact from the red cross was this shot here at 13.92mm away. You know, 31 metres. Do I use an excuse of it being windy? I think not. It was. Yeah, we had a few, you know, gusts, but I think a lot of this, to be fair, comes down to my getting used to the rifle as well. There's 2 factors here that made it quite awkward to shoot in my mind. One was the positioning of the bipod and this pivot point, because anything that touches the butt will affect its accuracy. And when it was shouldered, I tried to lock into it as best as I can. I controlled my breathing as best as I could, but even my pulse was affecting the stability of the shot. I could see it just moving slightly up and down. The other thing is as well is that it's got some muzzle flip, so when you shoot the rifle you can feel it just kick a tad. So between the two, it's actually not that comfortable to shoot, or not that easy to shoot, and this is why I would have dearly loved to be able to mount this bipod much closer to the end of the barrel and give me a more stable frame. I think it would perform better if it had that ability, but this plastic frame around the cylinder is just too soft. I mean, you can squeeze it, and by doing that I'm changing its shape. There's no strength in it at all. So yeah, and with the group size, now this is an 8-shot group size, so it's a little bit more than the standard 5-shot group size that I normally do, but I was getting a bit frustrated and I wanted to see whether I could get a group out of it or not. That gave me a group of 30.5mm, double the size of the previous group test. Is it down to me? Probably. You know, could you shoot it better? If you have time, yes, definitely. So, how have I rated it? Well, basically, for the pellet and accuracy test, I've scored the rifle 3.3 out of 5 stars. Okay, so let's talk about the trigger. Now, as I said, it's adjustable. Adjustable for pull and for weight. It's adjustable for the positioning on the post. You can swivel that blade and you can move it up and down. Out of the box, I've done no adjustment whatsoever to this rifle, and the trigger is sublime. You know exactly when it's going to release each and every time, and it doesn't take much effort. It's just nice. Put the crosshairs on the target, gently squeeze the trigger, and it releases. It does the job each and every time. So in my mind, with regards to use outside of the box, it scores 4 out of 5. For adjustability, 4 out of 5, although I've not had to do anything to it. And predictability, definitely 4 out of 5. I could score it 5 out of 5 for most of those, but at the end of the day, like I say, there is always room for improvement, and I've not had the rifle long enough in order to be able to make those adjustments. Plus, like I've always done in the past, I don't mess about with rifles that I don't own. It's not my place to do that. However, saying that, I didn't feel the need to adjust it at all. So I've scored it 4 out of 5. It could have had 5 out of 5s, but like I say, there's always room for improvement. Okay, so let's talk about the power output. So putting this rifle over the Crony, the fastest speed I achieved, and this was using the Crossman hollow points at 14.3 grains in weight. The fastest speed achieved was 603 feet per second. The slowest was 581 feet per second. So that gives me a spread of 22 feet per second, which is quite a bit actually. It's probably the largest spread that I've had of any of the rifles that I've tested so far. Although saying that, after the 603 feet per second we didn't achieve that speed anymore, and it was round about the 592 mark. So yeah, still, you know, that's what the Crony kind of registered, so that was the speed that it came out. However, saying that, using those pellets, it achieved a power output of 11.5 foot-pounds of energy, or 14.98 joules, which is right up there. I did try this with some Air Arms Diablo fields at, what are they now? Let me get, yeah, these are 16 grains, and it came out at 11.89 foot-pound of energy. So it's right at the very limits of what's legally allowed in this country without being on an FAC. So please guys, be very, very careful as to what pellets you use in this rifle. Make sure that you stay under the 12 foot-pound limit. But because it's right up there, I had no issues with the transfer port at all. And with this transfer port, basically, like all transfer ports, because they all seem to follow the same format, on maximum, obviously you get the 11.05 foot-pound. On minimum, you get round about 6.9 foot-pounds of energy, and then between the two, it's not half the difference. It's round about 10 foot-pounds of energy. Okay, so they're all the same. They all operate roughly the same way. Overall power output, it's scoring 4.5 out of 5 stars. With regards to air efficiency, or shot count and air efficiency, so I filled this up to its maximum safe working pressure of 200 bar, and I shot it down to, let me have a look, what I shoot it down to, 120 bar, and I achieved 79 shots in that range. If I was to shoot it down to the minimum required working pressure of 100 bar, then I'd get 99 shots out of it, and that scores okay, you know, for the rifle, for the cylinder size. And the cylinder is 200 cc's, by the way, so it's not a particularly large cylinder, and effectively there's not a lot more that you can do with it. You can't put a bottle on it, you can't do anything like that. It is what it is. So for a 200 cc bottle, I'm getting 99 shots. Now, interestingly, if you look at the factory figures that Kral provide, and they don't give you factory figures for sub 12, it's for their full power version, the .177 achieves 13.5 foot-pound, or 18.3 joules of energy. The 2.2 is 25.81, or 35 joules, and the 2.5 is 31.57, or 42.8 joules. The velocities, the speeds, in the .177 it's kicking out 850 feet per second, in 2.2 800, and in 2.5 750 feet per second. And the shot count in the .177 is 70, in .22 is 60, and in .25 is 50 shots. So sub 12, 2.2, 99 shots per fill. You know, it's giving more than the factory figures, but the factory figures on the Kral website is for a full power version rifle. You know, they're basically in the same ballpark, which is good. And it's nice to see a manufacturer that isn't over egging its products on a website. And with regards to air efficiency, I'm basically getting 1 shot per bar of air pressure. So it makes it okay, you know, it's fairly efficient. And overall, it scores 3 out of 5 stars for shot count and efficiency. If it had a bigger bottle, if it had a buddy bottle, you know, you'd be able to get a lot more out of it, but it is what it is. That's the design. Now let's talk about noise levels. Guys, if you're going to take this out on the field, if you're going to do some vermin control or some small game hunting, you are going to want to put a moderator on this, because it is loud, it barks. It's kicking out 90 decibels. So you really do want to put a moderator on this, and because of that it is scoring 2.5 out of 5 stars. It would have been nice if the shroud was or had an integral moderator within it. It doesn't. It's just basically a tube, and because of the short barrel, it's yeah, it's pretty loud. So put a moderator on it, you're going to need it. So finally we come to value for money. Do I think this is good value for money? Well, first off, we need to find out how much it costs. The rifle, which has been very kindly lent to me by Andy from theGunLocker in Stafford, thank you very much Andy, thanks for all your support. The rifle is on sale for £600. I've got the price ticket here. Okay, for that £600 you get the bare rifle. You don't get a scope, you don't get the mounts, they're mine. You don't get the bipod, that's mine. What you do get are 2 rotary magazines, a single shot tray, a filler port connector, and a robust Kral hard case, and a hard case that you can actually fit a rifle with scope attached within it. It's a good case. So that's for £600. Now what you don't get, like I said before, is the scope, the mounts, the bipod. You don't get an air supply, and obviously you haven't got any pellets. And if you are starting from scratch, you would need to budget an additional £400–450 to get those items. An air supply is quite expensive now. You know, a bottle, you're talking 200 plus for a cylinder of any size. Scopes, £200. Mounts, you know, you can get budget mounts, but you're looking 50, 60, £100 for mounts, if not more, depending on what you're getting. Bipods, well, you can spend as much on a bipod as you do the rifle. So it really is up to you what sort of accessories you want to attach to the gun and how much you're going to pay for it. But let's say we budget an additional 400 quid, so £1,000 to get you set up and get you shooting. Is it good value for money? Well, when I look at that cost and I compare it to the results that I'm getting, because at the end of the day you're buying a tool to do a job, so you know it's got to be able to perform. In my mind it's scoring 3.4 out of 5 stars, so it's okay-ish. There are quirks to this rifle which make it harder to shoot, and that comes down to your own skill. If you could make it more accurate, if your skill is such that you know you're a better shooter than me, and let's face it, you know, I'm not a professional shot, and I'm not a competition winner, I'm okay, and And would I buy it to use it for vermin control and small game hunting? I guess I would. You know, even with a score of 3.4, because it is a rifle that at the end of the day isn't that expensive, and I've got all the other gear that goes along with it. As a starter rifle, I would probably opt for something else. And within the Kral range, I've got to say I prefer the high cap over the Mortal. I just think that that's a more stable rifle, and it performed a lot better for me. But that's my personal opinion. So guys, that's it. 3.4 out of 5 stars for value for money. And if you tally up all the scores, combine them together, the rifle scores 3.6 out of 5 stars. So, you know, it's up there. For the money, it's okay. It really is. If you're in the market for one of these, certainly try it out. And like I say, the features that it has makes it attractive, that's for sure. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you've enjoyed the new format. Again, if it works for you, please drop me a comment. If you prefer the old style format, drop me a comment, and yeah, I'll go from there. Until the next one, as always, please stay safe out there, shoot safe, keep safe, you know, look after yourself, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.